Hey guys, welcome to Make It Work, Marcy. This is my friend Holly. We've been friends since we were 12 years old, and she's always been good with money, always. But she moved to Australia a few years ago. Now she's back in America, and her perspective on money had changed even more than when we were growing up. And so I started wanting to ask her, what was it that changed her perspective? What was different in Australia? And I am not about other countries are better than the USA. I am not like that. But there are things to be learned when you go to a different country and see just the differences in the way people live. And so I wanted to ask her first the difference in the homes in Australia versus the United States.
Well, I think that my first perception was that they are just extremely frugal. So, it doesn't mean that they have things that are not nice or that they don't splurge on things, but they're very frugal, they're very resourceful, they like to do more with less, but in reality, that's kind of just because their country is so large and there are much fewer people, they don't necessarily have access or the availability to do things and to live the way that Americans live. So there is definitely something to be learned in that way, but I think that I just took away from how much they could make even a smaller space such as a smaller home really function and work when they have kids and when they have people over, and they just never lacked doing life and sharing that with others. They were really able to kind of just make it work, and it was really fabulous to kind of just experience that and live in that and really enjoy that too.
Well, give us a picture, give us an idea of what a typical house that you stayed in Australia, what your room was like, or just the house in general. How did it look?
I lived in two different homes. One of them in my bedroom was just one room was a twin bed with a chest of drawers, like 5 drawers and a little nightstand. And then I had a closet space that was no wider than this fireplace. Not even that. But the other house did not have a closet in my room at all. It was just, I think I had probably a full size or a queen size bed in there. It was a room for a desk in the corner, and then it had like a small dresser with like 3 big drawers in it, and then this like wardrobe that was kind of in the corner, which just kind of the 2 doors open, and that's where my hanging clothes were.
So no walk-in closets.
No walk-in closets. I can't really think of a house. I mean, some newer houses might have that, but it's still very minimal compared to maybe what you're used to seeing in places like America. It's not like a walk-in closet the size of your bedroom.
Not that there's anything wrong with walk-in closets, but that's another way that you could think of it beyond just being a closet. You could use it for other purposes too, like your clothes are here and maybe books or something that you keep in the closet with them, so that you're not feeling like, okay, that's a whole space that I can't use because that's just for clothes, that's just a closet. You could maximize that space in some way. Well, and I noticed when you came home, because Holly had been in Australia on a mission trip for a few years, and she came home and she got married, and when she got married, her and her husband were looking for a house, and these are 2 people that have had full-time incomes, and were very capable of buying a typical nice American home. But they chose a house that was much smaller and maybe older than you would think that a newly married couple would buy. And so I was going to ask you, what were some of the things that stood out to you about what you wanted in the house and in the property and in the area and how much you wanted to spend? What were some of the pieces of information that you can give us that stand out to you that made you happy that you chose this?
Well, I think when we got married, we were relocating for work purposes, and our hunt was, we had to speed that along because we were in a hurry to get a house before we got married. Plus, the market was just really hot, and houses, had multiple offers the day they were listed, and you feel like that's what realtors tell you sometimes, but it really was true in this situation. So, we're very grateful to have the house that we have, but at that point, we really didn't need to be super picky. And so we definitely have gone into this thinking that this isn't our forever home, and as most Americans do, we think about upgrading and instead of downsizing, upsizing eventually. That we're not going to live here forever, but maybe we will be able to feel like this is something that we can live with more long term. But I think when we got married, we live in a 1,500 square foot house, so it's not super small by any means, but for the average American family, and maybe, I guess, average American family, especially those with kids, you know, this is not the size house that they would probably choose to live in if they could keep from that. So, you know, I think our choice was more like, we know we can manage this, we know we could probably manage this with one kid when that comes along, and that's just kind of where we wanted to start. So that's kind of what we decided.
I think that's smart. Like I talked about in the very first video, I was saying just start at square one. See the smallest amount that you can live on, and then you can kind of build from there. And so now they do have a kid. They had a baby last year, and so now have things changed for how you're looking at your house and moving? Or do you feel like, I'm glad that I made this decision, I'm glad that I'm not having to worry about a house payment now that we have a baby to think about too?
I would say that there have been moments that we are kind of overwhelmed in a good way. When we both got married, we both had come from complete full households. He had a house full of stuff, I had a house full of stuff. We were merging, you know, two families, and 2 months after we got married, we found out we were having a baby. So just when we were trying to cram all that stuff into this house, which, I mean, we literally had to get rid of over half of it, and then turn around and rethink the function of how we were going to do things because we had to make room for a baby. So, I mean, here we are a year and a half in of living in this house, and we still do not have everything in its place. But, you know, we have learned what we can quickly. We've learned what we can live without, and so I mean, I think for us, like, we just had to really be okay, and I think it helped me to move to Australia to learn what I could live without, to not be so attached to certain things. I mean, definitely we want to keep things and, you know, have those kind of mementos, but there's other things now that I have a kid that I'm just like, it's not about me anymore, like, we got to make room for this person. So I mean, I can definitely feel like we can let things go, you know, easier than I probably could have.
So that's one change that you guys had to make. You had to just not combine everything. You had to just get rid of some stuff. And I think that as scary as it sounds for some people, really, if you want to downsize a really fast way and an effective way, instead of trying to find just little things that you can get rid of, if you can really reduce what you have, period, you know, go through each room and see what you really are using, what you really don't need, what you really love, what you really are just kind of okay with, that really would downsize, help you downsize really quickly, just in the getting rid of stuff, to say it that way.
Yeah, and
so,
we haven't fully, you know, mastered this yet.
Well, nobody has. So, but I was going to ask you also, do you have any advice for people watching just on downsizing and even decorating, because you're in a house that took some redecorating that you're still in the middle of, you know, using a smaller space, saving money, obviously. Do you have any advice?
Well, with the help of a lot of YouTube videos, not just this one, but with other YouTube videos, I feel like don't be afraid to try to do things yourself. Mm-hmm. It will save money. We're working on it, you know, not, you know, totally taking its toll on our marriage, learning to work together and tackle those projects, but no, it's fun. But I mean, there is a lot that you can do that you don't have to pay for. So I mean, that would be my first advice. I'm all about some sweat equity. I feel like what you know, it's paying me back for when I sell my house. That's money that I get to take with me instead of having to put it in someone else's pocket. But we know our limitations. The other thing is when we walked in this house, it was built in the 80s, not super old, but I lived in a house that was built in the 50s before this one. So I definitely knew in my mind what was going to help this feel fresh and new. And honestly, you might think I'm crazy, but for a smaller house, and another tip that I've always learned and what you see a lot of in Australia, just because they're practical and they don't probably go all frou-frou on you, but they like a blank white clean slate, and for me that's what we did in this house. I mean, the floor, the ceiling, the baseboards, everything painted the same color white. So that was a good place for us to kind of just feel like we could get, you know, started with where we wanted to go from here.
And white really never goes out of style, because I mean, different colors of wood, you know, lighter, darker, and that kind of thing you can run into. That was popular 20 years ago, now it looks outdated. But white, I mean, it just always looks clean, and you're ready to start from a blank canvas.
Yeah. The other thing that we've had to really make work in this house is closets. And another thing that I feel like, this isn't only in Australia, but you know, other countries, maybe what you don't see so much in America, but when you walk into a bedroom, you see a room with all this matching furniture. And I feel like a lot in you know, places and homes that I lived in Australia and even parts of Europe and things like that, like they don't just function with a bunch of furniture like that, because especially if you move houses, then it doesn't always fit in the same place, and you know, you don't have as much flexibility. So for that, I would say they just live out of a closet or live out of like a wardrobe type piece that is in most bedrooms, and you think higher instead of wider. So I mean, like, even when we are trying to think about new furniture for our bedroom, we have this really big long dresser that takes up an entire wall. Well, why don't we try to get a chest with the same amount of drawers that goes higher versus taking up the whole wall space? So that's just one thing that it's like, that easy change could make a big difference, you know, in a small room.
How about outdoors? Are they outside a lot? Do they have a lot of things outside? You know, we have the garages and different areas that we use outside. How are they with that, the Australians?
I think that I loved life over there, and there are a lot of places that I love life here, but it's probably not so affordable for me. But you know, they live outside the four walls of their home. I mean, they do pretty well of enjoying their outdoor spaces and making it comfortable for them. I mean, they'll have fans out there, or they'll have like the heaters that you can put at the corner of your patio and like still sit outside and enjoy being outside at all times of the year. Maximizing that space, because that's an extension of your home, you know. So I mean, don't be afraid to kind of invest and go there. And something that really sold us on this house is that we have not only a sunroom but a screened-in porch. So it felt bigger than what it really probably is, because we had that. And then we also have a very wide, you know, kind of deep front porch, which, you know, we don't spend a ton of time on, but I mean, like, it's there, and it feels like, hey, if we need people, you know, have a place to go and you're having a party or something, I mean, they don't have to be all cramped inside this one room. They can be outside mingling or doing whatever.
So part of it's just the feel of it. I mean, even though you don't use the front porch that much, if you're looking out the window, it just looks nice, and it just makes the whole room feel better. So think about that. Think about not really getting expensive with it, but making the outside of your home look nice, especially the parts of your home that look directly outside to it, like look out the windows and you see your porch or even your garage, and just make it look inviting and comfortable, so that you feel like at least there's the feeling of that it's bigger than it really is. So that's all for us today on Make It Work with Marcy. We want to thank Holly for coming on, and I hope you guys can subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and leave us a comment below on things that you've done to your home that you feel like make it feel bigger or more inviting, or just improvements that you've made. Thanks, guys.